Remain calm. There is no need to panic about global warming. That was the message today from 16 scientists writing an op-ed in the Journal. Welcome to Opinion Journal Live. We're very fortunate to have one of those scientists with us now, Dr. William Happer from Princeton University, the physics department. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
A lot of attention to this piece, hundreds, maybe by now thousands of comments online. A lot of interesting stuff here, and I thought maybe the most interesting is the idea that maybe doesn't get enough attention, but apparently there doesn't seem to be any warming over the last decade. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, yes. If you look at satellite measurements of warming and even surface measurements of warming, there's been almost none for 10 years.
Okay, because I think about the satellite measurements, and I know John Christie has occasionally written for us, and as I understand it, he's one of the leading scientists who actually do collect the data. And
that's correct.
I think these are government-owned satellites that monitor temperature around the world. And
that's right. They're NASA satellites. They look at the microwave emission of the atmosphere and infer the temperature from the...
And there have been times where it seemed like the satellites were showing not as much warming as the ground-based measurements, but now the verdict from everywhere is that we just don't see a warming trend over, what, since 98, somewhere in that range?
Well, at least since 2000. 98 is a little anomalous because there was a big El Nino there.
Okay.
So it's not really fair to start from 98.
But since 2000, you're not seeing warming.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, now this would seem to undercut the idea that our industrial emissions are causing a warming. I suppose it's possible that emissions do cause a warming, but this would suggest not as much as many people thought?
Yeah, I think most people like me believe that industrial emissions will cause warming, but just much less than has been predicted by many computer models.
And specifically by the big model or the models that are used by this UN group, the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, if I have that right.
That's very good, yes.
Okay. and so they've basically been completely wrong in their forecasts. Is that fair to say?
Well, they've certainly exaggerated the forecast. I mean, you can look at their predictions. They've published them in various reports, and they're all high.
In other words, predicting more warming than we're actually seeing when we get the temperature.
Right.
Now, the other interesting thing here is the idea that if there are increasing CO2 levels, and as we've just discussed, they don't seem to be warming the planet the way many people had feared they would. It's possible that this increase might actually have some positive effects.
Yes, I think that it will have a positive effect, and many people agree with me who've looked into the issue.
And I'm curious about the reaction you're getting today, because I mentioned a lot of people posting on our website, and I notice lots of people tweeting about this piece. Do you get feedback from your students? Do they say we don't believe you, or you're right on and glad you're speaking up, or what is kind of the mood on campus and among your students?
I haven't seen any students today. They're really on vacation. We just finished exams.
Yeah.
But of course, I've gotten many emails, both pro and con.
And I guess that's the point, is you're trying to say this should be an active debate as opposed to an area where people declare the argument over.
That's right. That's right. The science really is not settled here.
And thinking about going forward, I mean, is there a level where you could say this much CO2 in the atmosphere might be a positive and better than where we are now? Or you probably don't want to get into the forecasting business given how wrong these other forecasts have been, but I'm just wondering if this suggests anything in terms of policy.
Well, I think the policy is to do nothing about CO2 for at least some decades while we see what is going to happen. And there are lots of suggestions that more CO2 will be good for the world. We'll increase agricultural production. You know, greenhouse operators even now add CO2, and it helps in many ways. First of all, they need it to eat, and secondly, it makes them more drought resistant. So there are just lots of good things about it.
Now, as far as a lot of the media has portrayed this over the last, I don't know how many decades, the sort of global warming hysteria has been building here, but it's often presented as mainstream scientists think man is destroying the planet and radical action is needed, versus a tiny group of industry mouthpieces who are saying, don't worry about it. Do you, the 16 of you signed this op-ed, or wrote this op-ed, do you feel like you're speaking for others who maybe are afraid to speak, or have you had people reach out to you among the emails you got today, or some of them other scientists in the field who maybe haven't gotten vocal yet, but are saying, I'm glad someone's saying this?
Well, I've gotten many emails personally from scientists who've said, why didn't I get a chance to sign this op-ed? You know, I completely agree with you. And some were quite offended that they were not permitted to sign it.
Okay, so there's 16. This is not a maximum number, and
not at all.
I think there are others who have compiled bigger lists. And okay, and it sounds like well, I guess the other thing I should ask you is because we have seen a disturbing pattern where after you had the so-called ClimateGate scandal, where there seemed to be a real effort by people who believe that industrial man is destroying the planet to really silence those who had another view. Now, have you gotten pushback from the administration at your school or from others saying, you know, you really shouldn't be saying this?
No, not at all. The school has been very good.
So, so the spirit of free academic inquiry is still very strong at Princeton.
It's certainly true at Princeton.
Well, that's great to hear. Okay, Dr. Apper, thanks so much for coming in, and thanks for the op-ed. I know our readers enjoyed it, so appreciate it.